Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Amherst County Board of Supervisors meeting. Let the record reflect it is January 3rd, 2023, and this is the call to order. So our first order of business will be the invocation and pledge of allegiance, and I would like to ask Mr. Drew Wade if he could lead us today.
Let's pray. Dear Lord, we come to you now to first thank you for the day you've provided us, Lord, and bring us blessings into this new year. We ask your protection over the law enforcement and public safety members of our community, along with our military. And we ask that you give us guidance and wisdom as we proceed in doing the county's business today. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Pledge of
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Wade. I am now going to hand the gavel over to Mr. Bryant. He is going to lead us through the reorganization for 2023.
Okay, I would like to open the floor for nominations for Chair of the Board of Supervisors for the 2023 calendar year.
Mr. Bryant, I would like to nominate Mr. Tom Martin as chair.
And I'll second that.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, Mr. Martin, floor is yours.
Thank you. I will do my best to help lead us in 2023. The next thing on the agenda will be the election of vice chair. Is there any nominations from the floor?
I move that we nominate Mr. Jimmy Ayers.
All right. Motion on the floor by Mr. Pugh. Seconded by Mr. Wade. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Congratulations.
Thank you, Board.
Only two, correct?
Yeah, then,
That's correct.
All right, next thing is appointment of liaisons. There's various boards and committees that we serve as liaisons. Does anyone see any need to change from what we had last year?
no, other than there is one committee that will no longer, we no longer have to have as a redistricting committee of
Correct.
myself and Mr. Wade, so we'll exclude that one.
Okay.
So I will make a motion that we reappoint everyone to their various councils.
Motion on the floor by Mr. Pugh that we maintain our current boards and committees with the exception of the redistricting. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Very good.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, ma'am.
I recall seeing in the agenda, in the packet, that there was going to be a vacancy on the Horizon Mental Health Board. Is that right, Mr. Bryant?
Yes, ma'am. That's coming up.
Is that a citizen appointment?
That is Mr., the gentleman from the town, police officer, is the, has been on there.
Kelvin
Shiflett.
Brown.
Mr. Shiflett.
Oh, Chief Shiflett.
So do we need to appoint that today, or is that later on?
Yes, sir, that's later on.
Okay. You okay, Ms. Tucker? Are you okay with that explanation?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, very good. Oh, it's actually further down, okay. All right, meeting schedule. All right, currently we hold our meetings on the first Tuesdays at 3 p.m. and the third Tuesdays at 7 p.m. I believe on July 4th and Election Day, there may be a conflict. I would recommend we just keep the schedule, at least I would offer that we keep the schedule as it is, and as we come closer to those dates, we can either decide to cancel or reschedule.
I'll make a motion to leave the schedule as is for the
Okay.
time.
Any discussion? Motion on the floor by Mr. Wade. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And I vote aye. All right, rules of procedure. All right, this is the rules of procedure that we have operated by. Is there a motion to adopt these or any discussion?
I make a motion that we adopt the rules of procedure as noted in the agenda.
Thank you, Ms. Tucker. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I vote aye. Thank you. Next thing on the agenda is approval of the agenda. Is there a motion?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Motion on the floor by Mr. Ayers. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I vote aye. Citizen comment. Are there any citizens here that would like to speak? Mr. Marks?
I did sign the list.
Okay.
Here. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is John A. Marks, Jr., and I reside at 225 Clark Street, Madison Heights, Virginia, 24572. I'd like to address item 7A. I'd like to address item 7A of the agenda dealing with the request for more manpower for the transfer station. Let me say that 3 minutes does not provide nearly enough time to address all of the justifications for my recommendation, so I'll just try to hit some major points. First, we all know the transfer station is not being operated to serve its originally justified purpose. Waste is not being shipped from the transfer station to an outside facility because the cost to do so is absolutely prohibited. Waste is being dumped in the transfer station, then hauled to the county landfill for disposal using the equipment that's costing, when it was new, I would say approximately over $200,000. Second, the county is not saving $250,000 per year as projected by the study. The opposite is true. It costs the county to operate the transfer station. How much? Nobody knows, because the costs are not broken out. They're all included with all of the other costs. However, based on this request you have before you, we know it's going to cost at least $100,000 because of the 2 people. But I think when you look at all the other stuff involved, the hauling of the leachate, the cleaning, everything else that goes on with the transfer station, it's going to cost $100,000, probably just scratching the surface. And I previously asked via a FOIA request, what percent of the waste is actually going to the transfer station as opposed to going directly to the landfill, and I left it. And basically, what's going to the transfer station, what's going to the landfill is everything, it appears, from the convenience centers, everything from the GF Green for Life is going there. What's from the citizens waste can go to the transfer station, but everything else is being bypassed, okay? Based on what I was told, there was no, and I requested to find out what percentage was actually going direct to the landfill. There was no estimate given. Based on the fact of what I was told, I would estimate that 80% of all the waste that's going to our landfill now goes directly to the landfill and bypasses the transfer system. Guess on my part, just based on what I was told. So based on all that information, I'd recommend that the continued operation of this $2.6 million facility is a waste of taxpayer money. Not only should this board disapprove the request, transfer system should be shut down. The equipment that's left of any value should be put up for sale, and the people currently working at the landfill should be, at the transfer station, should be transferred probably back to the landfill so we can meet the requirements of the landfill itself, the number of people working on the landfill face. So I think if this board does anything less than this, so this service to the citizens and the taxpayers of Amherst County. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Marks. Are there any other citizens that would like to speak? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda. If it pleases the board, I would like to be able to break this out into two parts so I can abstain from item B. Is there a motion on item A?
Make a motion to approve the minutes for December 6, 2022.
Motion on the floor by Mr. Wade to approve the minutes. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And I vote aye. And just a statement, I will be abstaining from item B, the reimbursement to Amherst Fire Department. I do serve as the chief of Amherst Fire Department, and although I get no monetary income from the department, so there's no view of impropriety, I will abstain. Is there a motion for item B?
Mr. Chairman, since the fire department is in my district, I would like to make the motion. I move that the board approve reimbursement of $26,000 for heat pump repairs at the Amherst Fire Station from the ESC Capital Expense Fund.
Okay. Motion on the floor by Ms. Tucker. All those in favor?
Aye.
And I abstain. Thank you. All right, new business, request for 2 landfill operators, Mr. Thacker.
Greetings, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
So the landfill has been experiencing a bit of a degradation and upkeep since the summer. In reviewing operations with staff, we've determined that the change really happened when the transfer station opened, thereby pulling off 2 of our 4 employees, and we've not been able to recover. This is critical in terms of our operations so that we need to keep up with our DEQ permit, which mandates that we have a minimum of 4 to 5 operators at the landfill working face at all times. So the request today is for 2 more operators at the landfill to meet the DEQ requirements.
Board, any questions?
Yes, so, I think, a citizen brought up some valid points today, under citizen comments. I think at this point, I mean, when you look at the transfer station, it is not being utilized as it was supposed to be utilized. We have pulled 2 people off the face to go work over at the transfer station, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And so now we have some issues with that, so to speak, for various reasons, not just degradation of the landfill, but various other reasons. You have to have so many people permitted to operate these entities, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
So I guess my question is, when will this board be receiving information in regards to transfer station operations versus landfill operations? Are you gonna bring those numbers? Do we have an engineering firm that is gonna bring us that information?
Yes, sir. So we've been working with SCS, who does our landfill surveys and tests, and we've met internally with Mr. Bryant and Ms. McBride and internal staff. And as we've gone back and forth with numbers, we've gone back to SCS to revise their figures to get it accurate so it's presentable to the board. We anticipate that sooner than later.
Okay, and the information that Mr. Marks brought to us today regarding the transfer station, GFL, which probably does most of the trash pickup in the county, at least in my, by looking at the places they serve, that's what I see. It used to be county waste. They are taking the trash to the top of the landfill, is that correct?
Their roll-off trucks do. There are commercial front-end loaders and side loaders take it to the transfer station.
Are they capable of unloading it at the top of the transfer station? I mean, at the landfill? They're capable of doing that?
Yes, sir, they are.
All right, here's my question. I've got a question regarding permitting process. You have to have a permit to operate the transfer station. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, is that a hard process to get it permitted?
Oh, yes.
So let's say that we decided to not even operate the transfer station at this point. Could you, what would be the process to just shut the transfer station down? And, I mean, we could possibly have to open it up if we choose to use that transfer station again in the future. Do you have any idea of that process or time involved in that process?
The generic process is to notify the DEQ immediately that we intend to suspend operations, what's known as PBR, or Permit by Rule 640, which is the transfer station. We then wait for their guidance forthcoming to see what we would have to do to idle it.
If anyone else has a question, I might have some more.
Mr. Chairman, I've got some concerns. We're right here at budget time, looking at, what are we faced with, for the next year as far as that budget numbers, and, I mean, I would like to see us look at this a little bit further before we, commit to two additional positions. That is my feeling there is, we need to, obviously, it's, as Mr. Thacker said, it's sooner than later as far as us seeing what this study is and what comes out of that as far as their operations, and that's just my feeling. I'm not prepared to add additional, place additional people and additional cost to the citizens, and at this time, as we start into budget seasons, it can be considered at that time.
Mr. Chairman, I do have a question. Mr. Thacker, I understand the reasoning for the two people, and I dug in it with Mr. Bryan. I think, I'm not an engineer, but I think I kind of understand it. How much time do we have to wait before DEQ says either run a transfer station or give up your permit? How much time do we have?
There is no time. We can run run both concurrently as long as you wish. The problem we're having is adequate staffing at the landfill.
Okay, how long can we be out of compliance before?
That I can't answer directly. I can tell you we
That's
have,
not even the question, that's not the words that come out correctly.
Can I maybe help you with that, Ms. Tucker?
Please.
Mr. Thacker, can we maintain that permit for the transfer station and not technically be operating it in a day-to-day operations, but can we maintain that, utilize the landfill currently and not have to give up that permit? Does anything say that in order to maintain the permit that we've got to continue to operate it day-to-day?
the permit requires is two separate permits, one for the transfer station, one for the landfill. So putting the transfer station aside, the landfill says we have to have 4 to 5 operators on any given day. Right now, we have 2. Several days, especially with the holidays, we had 0. When we were using inmates from Blue Ridge Regional Facility, we were using grounds people who are paid less than operators to do it. We were using the solid waste manager to run equipment to survive. We're audited quarterly by the DEQ. If they come in and detect a problem and they start digging and realize we've been short-staffed for months, we already have what's known as a notice of violation from December of 2018 that cost tens of thousands of dollars of fines to the county. A second such violation, because they don't forget, would be probably in excess of 6 figures.
Let me stop you there. So I think the question is, you know, if we pull people off the transfer station to backfill the landfill, so we're adequately staffed, how often do we need to operate the transfer station to maintain the permit?
So you would fix one problem and cause another, because then you'd have adequate staffing at the landfill, but then you'd have 0 people staffing the transfer station.
Good, but how often do you need to operate that transfer station to maintain the permit?
As long as it's open, as long as we're operating, we have to have 2 personnel. So if the board decided to shut down the,
Operate it 1 day a month, can you maintain the permit?
I don't know the answer to that question.
I think that's what we're looking to answer.
Well, or the question is, do we have to operate that transfer station currently? Since it's not being used as it initially was supposed to be used, does anything say that we currently have to operate that? Can we go back to utilizing the landfill as we had in the past until we make decisions? What are we gonna do with this transfer station? What is this study gonna tell us? To me, do we have to give up a permit in order to do that to the transfer station? Or can we just keep the permit as it is and currently not operate the transfer station?
Well,
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I think the question I have is, what exactly is the definition of a transfer station? Because when we started down this road, we were going to bring trash into this. My limited understanding is we have a roof, and people come in and they dump their trash, and then we were going to pick it up, put it in trucks, and ship it out to another locality, right? Because we're dumping it there and taking it to our own landfill, 100 yards or however far it is on the same piece of property, is that still considered a transfer station?
According to the DEQ, it is at the moment, but essentially what you're saying, it's a glorified convenience center. And I can make
Exactly.
that argument with the DEQ.
Exactly. So what, and I don't want to speak for the board, but I think there's a lot of questions. I'm not sure if we're even, we're going to have to make the decision if we're even going to continue to pursue the transfer of trash based on the life expectancy of our existing landfill and cost. So unless there's someone that's willing to make a motion at this point, I think we need more information.
I agree with more information, but I can't, I'm not willing to throw in the towel on the transfer station yet, because I still remember the liability issue that we had, and it's gonna be a long-term one. The thing is finite, it will eventually end. We've got Nelson County now who has nowhere to put their trash. Anyway, just putting a tag in that.
Fair enough. Is there anyone that wants to make a motion for these two positions? Okay. Thank you.
Can you please specify which information you're seeking to bring forth to you?
I think we want the study. I'd like to know what the definition of a transfer station is. And I think Ms. Tucker asked for how long we have before we have to surrender the permit. Is that correct?
And I think Mr. Ayers asked something about,
I'm sorry.
basically, I think if we're gonna get fined, we should cease operations on the transfer station, but we need to bring that information back to us, like, if you are, how do you maintain that permit? What are the protocol to maintain that permit if you aren't using the transfer station? I think is what I would like to see.
Well, and I think you could probably give us that information fairly quickly, because I think you said that the trash that's coming in could go to the face of the landfill, right?
And it has in the past.
And it has in the past, so if we're going to get fined, I would say, stop using the facility the way you're using it until we figure out what we're going to do, instead of continuing to throw taxpayer monies after something that I feel the board was ill-informed on from the beginning. So,
I have one more question, Mr.
Yes, ma'am.
Chairman. Using the transfer station, are there any efficiencies, and taking the trash from the transfer station over to the landfill, are there any efficiencies there that are not seen by taking it directly to the landfill?
Just the intangible of citizens not having to leave asphalt, not getting flat tires and things like that. It's safer taking it to a transfer station. Landfills are typically very dangerous. We've had a couple of near misses at the landfill since I've been here in February of 2020. So the transfer station is safer in that respect, but in terms of financial efficiencies, no.
Are there any environmental efficiencies?
Not if you're running both concurrently.
Right, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
and just for follow up on that, it's kind of what I was alluding to. If we just put cans under it, right, for people that were bringing their trash there, it's a convenience center with a roof over it, right? I can drive my truck under it, put my trash in the can like normal. That's a convenience center. It's not, but those are questions we need to have answered. Any other discussion on that, board? All right, if not, we'll move on to the county administrator's report. Mr. Bryant. Boards, commissions, committees, vacancy on Horizon Behavioral Health Board.
Yes, sir. We received notice from Horizon Behavioral Health from interim CEO Melissa Lucy that the Amhersttown Police Chief Robert Shiflett agreed to serve a 3-year term that would end on December the 31st, 2025. Mr. Shiflett had previously served on that board. He would like to be reappointed.
I would make a recommendation if he's willing to serve, that we reappoint him.
Ms. Tucker, did you have anything?
Just want to make sure that we, yeah.
Yes, ma'am. All right, there's a motion on the floor by Mr. Ayers to appoint Chief Shiflett to fill the vacancy on the Horizon Behavioral Health Board. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And I vote aye. Congratulations, Chief Shiflett. All right, next thing is board commissions, committees, community policy, and management team.
Yep, so the board's being asked to appoint a member of the Amherst County Community Policy Management Team. The recommended motion is to propose Stephanie Stager, Grants Administrator from Finance Department's office. She'll be maintaining the financial side of the CSA program with the Finance Department. So the motion is to appoint Mrs. Stephanie Steger as the county representative to the Amherst County Community Policy Management Team.
Board, what's your pleasure?
Make a motion to appoint Ms. Steger to the Amherst County Community Policy and Management Team.
Any discussion? All right, if not, there's a motion on the floor by Mr. Wade. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I vote aye. Project status report, Mr. Bryant.
So I'm going to pass this down. There was some, a little bit of a computer glitch on attaching the status report. It should be on there on the agenda, but you might have gotten it late. You probably got it late. So if there's any particular project, I won't go through each of these line by line, but if there's anything that you want to call my attention to or you would like for me to answer regarding the county administrator's project status report, I'd be glad to give you an update on that.
I do have a question, Mr. Chairman. Did we get any finalization from Nelson County on that meeting, Mr. Bryant?
So that was my next thing I was going to ask you. I'm looking for all of you to raise your hands to let me know if either February the 7th or February the 21st would work for a meeting. We intend to invite the Nelson County Board here to have a joint meeting for the annex study. So I'm polling your calendars to see if one, both, or neither of those dates work. We would probably, what I'm shooting for is try to do it at a day that you're already here. So I would do it either before or after a meeting, depending on if it's the day meeting or the night meeting. So I'm looking to not conflict with things like the Service Authority Board or any financial stuff that Stacy has. So if you will let me know if those dates would work for you, I'll try to coordinate with Nelson. The February the 7th or the 21st, which are already meeting dates here.
One works for me.
I could do either. I would probably prefer, well, if we did the 21st, I would prefer to do it before the 7 o'clock meeting. If we did it on the, I'm sorry.
We'll work around.
It looks like either day would work, is it?
Yeah, for me, it's fine, either one.
Okay. So I'll reach out to Nelson. We'll try to nail down a time and we'll invite them and then I'll inform you what date and time that is.
Okay.
That works.
Anything else on the project status report, Mr. Bryant?
No, sir.
Very good. Okay. County Attorney's report, Mr. Popovich.
I don't have anything at this time, sir.
Liaison and committee reports, Ms. Tucker, School Board,
I don't have anything.
Agricultural Committee.
I don't have anything on that either.
All right, Parks and Rec and Cultural Board, I have nothing. Planning Commission, Mr. Pugh.
We had, we may be looking at 2 special exceptions for tourist rentals coming up. And also, there may be some potential code changes coming up for subdivision standard changes and traditional neighborhood development potential code changes. So that's a couple things we should be looking for coming up in the future. Other than that, it's a relatively short meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Pugh. All right, we're back to citizen comment. Are there any citizens that would like to speak? Hearing and seeing none, we'll move on to matters from members of the Board of Supervisors. Mr. Wade?
I've got 2 things. The first, I'm hoping y'all can support me on this, but Earl Nicholson died back in October. So I'd like to rename name a bridge after him and maybe set up a memorial garden in Madison Heights. Looking at the potential, as far as the bridge right there on 163, right behind Dairy Queen. So if you're not familiar with Earl, he you always see him walking the street and we help out there. Real nice guy. So hopefully y'all can support me on that. And then the second thing is I've received some calls about some speeding in Old Town. I reached out to the sheriff's office and they've actually increased the patrols through there. They've wrote a number of tickets as of late. But if the patrolling, I don't see that as a long-term solution. So we'll see how it works, see if that resolves it. I might be coming back to y'all for some additional help there. So later on. But that's it.
So on the bridge naming, is that something you could work with VDOT on, Mr. Bryant?
Yes, sir. I had originally, Mr. Wade talked to me about that. I had worked with Mr. Brown out of the Appomattox residency. It would ultimately need to be a resolution from the locality. So if you wanted to go that route, direct staff to prepare a resolution, and then we would send that resolution, or would ask you to approve it after we draft it, and then we would send it to VDOT, and they would officially name it.
Or is there any issues asking Mr. Bryant to draft that for our next meeting? All right, could you do that, Mr. Bryant, please?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Anything else, Mr. Wade? Thank you. Ms. Tucker?
I had one thing that I've talked to Mr. Bryan about, and he's been polling some localities and talked to some folks. A number of my constituents and actually others have approached me about the coyotes and whether or not Amherst County could have a bounty. It's up to the locality, I do know that. State code would allow us to do that. The question is, does the science support it? And depending on who you ask, the answer, probably not. But there is a political aspect of this. One of the farms adjoining us, a couple weeks ago, a gentleman killed 86 coyotes in one night. 86. Yep. And, I mean, they're out there. They're out there. The science would say that the more you kill them, the more they multiply. Anyway, just throwing it out there for board members and see if y'all have heard anything.
I've heard what you've heard. I've heard that the more you kill them, the more they reproduce. I don't know if there's really no way to actually eradicate them. Snaring them is one way that people have used, but then you're looking at possibly catching people's cats and, pets. So I haven't seen anything or anywhere read anything that would lead me to believe there's a way you can truly eradicate coyotes.
I'm sorry, did you say put a bounty on them or just?
Yeah, what it is, like, for example, $50, and there's a process you have to go through. You have to have a hunting license, you have to be a resident of the county. And then you set up a process through, it's kind of like checking a deer, checking something else. You show the proof, and then there's a $50, $25, $100 bounty.
So you're incentivizing people to hunt them?
You could look at it that way, or you could say that you are reimbursing people for taking care of a menace to certain livestock and others.
You can kill them now, though, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Kill them anytime.
Okay.
They're
Yeah.
nuisance animals, so you can kill them year-round.
I don't know, but I'd like to see a picture of 86 coyotes. That seems astronomical.
A lot.
Yeah, that's a lot. I'd be worried about my own safety.
So where would you like for us to go, Ms. Tucker?
I wanted to throw it out there, see if
information?
any other board members had heard any concerns from their constituents. And I had told people I would look into it. I would say that we are currently looking into it. It's going to be an ongoing process unless the board has some objection.
Mr. Chairman, I've started to do some research. I have a few ordinances that we've pulled. Ms. Tucker's correct, state code allows for this program. And I've also polled all of our neighboring localities this morning, so I'll have a response that I can share with all of you.
That's good for me.
Ayers?
Have nothing.
I have nothing.
I have nothing. So is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion to adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Stand adjourned. So do we have to wait until 5?
Yes.
So re-advertised.
Yep.
Sorry.
I've